Over the next few minutes, we are going to look at how to facilitate self and peer correction in speaking activities in supporting learners' progress. Before we get to facilitate, let's find out why learner makes mistakes in language learning. As what Michael Lewis mentioned in the lexical approach, there are 3 reasons account for errors. First, language interference. Students usually try to get language correct. If they produce an interference error, this is because they did not know how to say the same principled guess, using first language as a resource. Lexical deficiency. Students make mistakes due to vocabulary deficiency, which causes many grammatical errors and particularly by lack of collocational power. Partial mastery. Many grammar mistakes result from imperfect mastery of the principal generative patterns of English. That imperfect mastery can be seen as partial mastery. But on the other hand, Lewis suggests that error correction is not important to learners' learning progress at all. He argues that error correction is time-consuming and often inhibits students, according to his book, The Lexical Approach. I disagree with Lewis because error correction is motivating. It's part of learners' expectation. It helps learners to keep track on their progress. As teachers, we face the challenge in deciding what, how, and when to correct errors. When thinking about different strategies to correct, we also need to think about who will correct the error. Should teacher always be the first one to correct errors? Ideally, the student that makes the error should correct themselves. If not, get students to cooperate in peer correction. The last choice is explicit correction from teacher. How can we facilitate self-correction? We can raise students' awareness through finger counting. Teacher counts their fingers, which each stands for a word in a sentence or syllable in a word, and skips the ones that represent missing word or syllable. Reformulation. Teacher reforms the mistake. Repetition. Teacher repeats the mistake using rising intonation. Facial expression. Teacher raises stiff eyebrows when repeating the mistake. Here's an example of me using different techniques to facilitate self-correction in a lunch chat activity. Answer this question after you watch it. Which techniques did I use in the video?
Fast bread picnics in the forest. Fire matters. Mentor manager to control the many.
You're stressful? You are stressed, right? Oh, okay. Have you thought about changing your job? Okay, so you really love your job, don't you? Because
Firefighters, inventory firefighters, inventory managers.
your husband has opened the telephone shop. Oh, your husband owns a shop, right? Cool.
As you may find out in the video or from your teaching experience, self-correction is not always effective when students doesn't know how to correct the mistakes. In that case, peer correction is important to be applied for effective error correction. We can facilitate peer correction using the following techniques. Teacher repeats the mistake using rising intonation when looking at another student. Teacher nominates a strong student to correct it. Teacher writes down the mistakes on different pieces of paper or brought them on the whiteboard, then have students to correct them. Teacher encourages students to correct their partner's mistake during the speaking activity. Here's an example of me facilitating peer correction in a speaking activity.
It's small.
Yes, there is a little MP3 iPod.
Very small. And you have some colors, red, yellow, and blue.
I want you to take a look and hope to correct it.
Do you think these sentences are right? If not, correct it. Sure. I have one more here. So, let's start with Kelly. What do you think, Kelly? The sentence is similar with iPhone. Right. Could you tell Kelly?
It's similar to iPhone.
Very nice.
Have a go using the error correction techniques in your next class to support your students' learning.